Texas. Boasting an unparalleled energy sector, a population growth rate that's 4 times the national average, and a tech industry swiftly catching up to Silicon Valley, the Lone Star State is on course to become the most influential state in America, and soon. Forget California's colossal economy and entertainment scene or New York's global finance, fashion, and arts epicenter. Texas is on a trajectory to eclipse the rest of the United States, and the evidence supports this claim. But how did this transformation occur? How has a sparsely populated, desolate frontier on the remote edges of the waning Spanish Empire evolved into a global titan in just a few centuries? Let's delve into it. Although Texas may not be the largest state by land or population, it ranks near the top in both metrics and many other spheres of influence. Furthermore, it is steadily climbing the ranks across a broad spectrum of measures, some of which might be unfamiliar to you. Starting with population, in 2020, California had approximately 10 million more residents than Texas, 39,538,223 to be exact. While a difference of 10 million is substantial, there's a crucial detail to consider. Texas has experienced the highest population growth among all U.S. states over the past decade. This is significant because a growing population translates into greater political power, especially in the U.S. House of Representatives, which we will explore shortly. First, let's briefly review the state's history to understand the magnitude of this population increase and why California should be concerned. It took 6 U.S. censuses before Texas joined the Union. The first 2 censuses saw Virginia as the most populous state, a position later claimed by New York at the 3rd census and held for a remarkable 150 years. This status quo was disrupted by the influx of settlers into western and southern states in the mid-20th century, giving a boost to states like California, Florida, and Texas. By the 1960s, Texas was 6th in population, with 9.5 million residents, trailing only Ohio, Illinois, Pennsylvania, California, and New York. The 1970 census marked New York's fall from the top position, overtaken by California. Texas advanced to 4th place with an impressive 16.9% increase in population, totaling almost 11.2 million. By the 1980 census, the number had risen to 14.2 million, making Texas the 3rd most populous state in the U.S. Although Texas saw a notable 19.4% population increase in the 1990 census, it remained 3rd, behind New York and California. The 1990s also marked the emergence of the more than 10 million gap between California and other states. It took another decade for Texas to claim the 2nd spot it holds today, surpassing 20 million residents in the 2000 census. While California remained 1st, Texas exhibited a significantly faster growth rate. This trend continued in the 2010s, with Texas growing by 20.6% to reach 25 million residents, while California's growth was slower, reaching 37.2 million. The gap widened in the 2020s, with Texas growing by 15.9% to 29.14 million and California growing by only 6% to 39.54 million. The gap between California and Texas narrowed from 13 million to 10.4 million in the first 2 decades of the 21st century and has continued to close since then. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, California faced an unprecedented decline in population. By July 2022, an estimated 700,000 people had left California, with a net loss of about 500,000 when accounting for 200,000 new arrivals. In contrast, Texas's population grew by nearly 900,000 from April 2020 to July 2022. For the first time in recent history, the population gap between California and Texas fell below 10 million. California had just over 39 million residents, while Texas had over 30 million. As of 2024, the gap had decreased to fewer than 8 million people, with Texas's growth continuing to outpace California's. If this trend persists, Texas is expected to surpass California in the 2040s. Regarding political power, the U.S. House of Representatives allocates seats based on population. Consequently, Texas has added 2 new representatives in recent years, bringing its total to 38, which constitutes 8.7% of the 435 seats. Texas also holds over 7% of the electoral votes required to win the U.S. presidency, making it a highly coveted state in presidential elections. In recent times, Texas has leaned Republican, with its last Democratic vote occurring in 1976. The state has been at the forefront of many significant social issues, including immigration and healthcare, often setting the tone for national debates. Its political influence is amplified by its economic strength. Texas's economic prowess is arguably the primary reason it is poised to become the most dominant state in the U.S. Let's break it down. Texas currently has the second largest economy in the U.S. by nominal gross domestic product, GDP. In 2023, Texas's GDP was $2.56 trillion, marking a 6.7% increase from 2022. This equates to 9.37% of the national GDP of the U.S., the largest economy globally. If Texas were a country, it would rank among the top 10 largest economies worldwide, specifically at number 8, surpassing economic giants like Brazil, Canada, Russia, Australia, and Spain. Where does this power originate? Texas's economic strength comes from a variety of sources. The state hosts several major business centers, each excelling in different sectors. For instance, Austin is renowned for its tech industry, now set to rival Silicon Valley in innovation and growth. Dallas is a financial hub, home to numerous Fortune 500 companies, while Houston is known as the energy capital, thriving on its concentration of oil and gas companies. San Antonio stands out for its military presence, tourism, and expanding cybersecurity sector. These cities collectively bolster Texas's economic power, making it a formidable national player. But Texas's economic strength extends beyond its major cities. The state benefits from widespread industries like aerospace and agriculture, creating a robust economic foundation. This broad-based growth distinguishes Texas from many U.S. states, as the entire state is experiencing expansion rather than just localized areas. The state's population growth mirrors this economic boom, particularly in the Dallas-Fort Worth and Texas Triangle regions. Dallas-Fort Worth, DFW, has added nearly 1.5 million residents since 2010, with around 8.1 million people living there as of 2024. DFW experienced the highest population growth among similar areas in the country in 2023, placing it fourth overall behind Greater New York, Greater Los Angeles, and Greater Chicago. Notably, DFW is the only top metropolitan area to see growth rather than decline recently, positioning it to potentially surpass the Greater Chicago area in the mid-2030s. DFW is part of the Texas Triangle, which includes Houston, San Antonio, and Austin, and houses over 22 million people despite being only 60,000 square miles, less than a quarter of Texas's total land area. The Texas Triangle ranks as the fourth most densely populated mega-region in the U.S., following the Great Lakes megalopolis, the Northeast megalopolis, and Southern California. While California retains a lead in some areas, Texas excels in others, such as exports. Texas is the top exporter in the U.S., with $444 billion worth of goods exported in 2023, compared to California's $178 billion. Exports to Mexico alone, estimated at $144 billion, nearly make Texas the largest exporter by itself. It offers no state income or capital gains taxes, allowing individuals and businesses to retain more of their earnings. Additionally, Texas provides favorable conditions for small businesses, including higher loan amounts per employee. Texas to essentially become self-sufficient, a nearly independent state within the U.S. However, post-war oil demand soon rose sharply, significantly outpacing the U.S.'s production. So, in 1946, the first large-scale oil shipment arrived in the U.S., straight from Kuwait in the Middle East. It left the U.S. vulnerable to fluctuations in global prices and geopolitical events that could disrupt the flow of oil. This vulnerability was particularly evident during the 1973 oil crisis when oil-producing Arab countries imposed an embargo on oil exports to the U.S. in response to its support for Israel during the Yom Kippur War. Throughout all the turbulence, Texas remained a key player in the U.S. oil industry, contributing significantly to domestic oil production and helping mitigate the impacts of the oil crisis. By 1974, the Permian Basin was producing some 25% of the U.S.'s total oil supply. Unfortunately, the geopolitical chaos caught up to Texas in the 1980s, pushing the state into a deep recession and scrapping some quite ambitious projects due to the lack of oil money. By 2007, the oil production in the Permian Basin hit an all-time low, spelling far-reaching economic trouble for the region. But then, Texas did what it does best. It adapted and overcame the challenges. Texan engineers working in the Barnett Shale region in northern Texas managed to combine two technologies: horizontal well drilling and hydraulic fracturing, creating a revolutionary technique that would transform the oil and gas industry. This innovative method allowed for the extraction of oil and gas from previously inaccessible shale rock formations, leading to a boom in production and once again revitalizing the Texas oil industry. This led to the drilling of thousands of new fracking wells all throughout Texas, including the Eagle Ford Shale in south and southeastern Texas and the good old Permian Basin. Luckily, the Permian Basin turned out to be packed with petroleum-rich shale rocks, allowing the oil field to once again be responsible for 25% of the total U.S. oil production. It also led to the discovery of notable oil fields in the Permian Basin, some of which are among the largest of its kind in the world, including the Strawberry Trend and the Wolfcamp Shale. Together, these fields are considered the second largest in the world, only behind Saudi Arabia's biggest offering, the Ghawar oil field. Similarly, the Eagle Ford Shale is so massive that it surpasses Russia's largest oil field, the Samatler field in Siberia. But what sets the Texan oil fields apart from their global competitors is their strategic location. You see, these fields are located in the heart of Texas, where most Texans live, and vast infrastructure has already been built. For instance, the famed Permian Basin is located near the Texas Triangle and is well connected to this crucial region by highway and rail. This makes it seamless to transport this oil to the rest of the U.S., as well as markets around the world. In contrast, the oil fields of Saudi Arabia are located in sparsely populated deserts blocked by major maritime choke points, such as the Strait of Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and the Suez Canal. Similarly, the Russian oil fields are located deep within the country's vast landmass, far from major ports and with limited access to global markets. With this in mind, it shouldn't be surprising that Texas has managed to stand out on a global scale, producing more oil than countries like Iraq and China. If it were a country, Texas would rank as the fourth largest oil producer in the world, only behind the US and the just mentioned Russia and Saudi Arabia. Given Texas's advantages over its competitors, it's only a matter of time before it rises through these ranks, as well. But Texas isn't investing solely in non-renewable energy. Staying true to the "a little bit of everything" approach, Texas also boasts impressive wind and solar energy production capacities. For wind energy, it ranks number 1 in the US, which shouldn't be surprising given that it houses some of the windiest areas in the entire world, mainly in the high plains in central Texas. Barely being able to find countries that can compare to Texas on a global scale should speak volumes about the state's power. With other industries besides the energy sector, such as agriculture, manufacturing, aerospace, biotechnology, and information technology, continuing to flourish in Texas, it becomes increasingly clear that Texas has it all to become the US's number 1 state. It has the strong industry. It has the people. It has the businesses, and it's only bound to get bigger and better. And as it continues to grow and diversify its economy, Texas becomes increasingly well-positioned to lead the great American nation for years to come. Now let us ask you, do you agree Texas is bound to take the top spot among the US nations? And if so, when do you think it will happen? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and take care out there.